Yo, Techish family, welcome back. Brand new Techish in the building. It is me, Michael. This week, Abba's chilling, but we brought back Dominic from a couple episodes ago. She's a TechCrunch reporter. She used to look at Business Insider. She's got her own Substack. She covers a lot of the similar ground that we do here at Techish. She's awesome. And we talk about Movie Crash, which is a documentary that came out on HBO about these two black founders who started a product called Movie Pass, which allows you to get like unlimited subscription to and access to cinemas. So you pay $10 a month and then you get to watch unlimited movies. The documentary is awesome. It's a great parable for black entrepreneurship and about how you can easily lose your company when you get investors on board that you don't trust. Tune in.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh. Okay, so let me just preface by saying when I first entered the media ecosystem way back in way the past, the 2019s of the world. In 2019 when I first jumped into the New York media scene, I had heard about Movie Pass, I joined Business Insider and they were the company that kind of did this massive investigation. It was getting all these awards, all this attention. And I was like, okay, Movie Pass. Anyway, moving on. I never paid attention to it at all. And then so fast forward, I don't know, 5 years later, Movie Crash comes out, right? And this is the first time I'm really also paying attention to the story because what was it? I knew that it was a company that did something wild and then blew up, but that's like so many startups, right? And so Movie Crash basically it focuses on because the insider investigation was a little different, but so the documentary gets a much more expansive picture, which was that it was this company founded by Stacy Spikes, and then he later brought on Hammett Watt. So it was like a two black founders
Mm-hmm.
building up this company, and they are obviously looking for investment money, and bringing in one investor led to a guy named Mitch, who led to a guy named Ted, and so they started bringing in more outside people to help build the company. Um, and basically, these two guys, Mitch and Ted became the largest shareholder in the company. Mitch became the CEO. And it basically just led to a series of bad business decisions on behalf of Mitch and Ted that led to, for that led the company to essentially collapse. Stacy was basically pushed out of the company. Mitch and Ted started spending just millions of dollars. They were able to bring in a lot of money, but they were just spending so much of it. They dropped the price of Movie Pass so low that it would have been practically impossible for the company to find a way to turn a profit off of that.
Right.
And it was kind of one of those things where Stacy had spent 10 years building this company and two white guys just came in and ruined it within a year. And so when I first started hearing about Movie Pass, I guess I heard about it when the company had collapsed. But the thing was, is and I feel like a lot of black people are the same way right now, is I don't think a lot of people knew that this company was black owned
Nope.
because the way the media framed it, and I even went back to that initial Business Insider investigation. The word black is not in there.
Damn.
They did not frame this as, a black company being taken by two white guys. It was just yeah, these two white guys who made themselves the face of Movie Pass. They're like, oh, they just blew millions, I think that the racial element of it completely changes the whole story.
100%. Just for our UK audience, so Movie Pass was basically like the Netflix of cinema. You pay a certain price per month, which is relevant. The reason why I'm not mentioning the price just yet, and you were meant to get like unlimited amount of movies or a certain amount of movies where you could go to the cinema, which is crazy. But what you're saying about the racial component is so amazing and fascinating because, yeah, even when you watch the documentary, it's really meta. It doesn't really start off and explain like that they're the founders. It just kind of starts off with the story and then it goes halfway back. It says, actually, these two were the founders. And to me, it's a parable of black entrepreneurship. It's actually one of the greatest parables you can ever watch. And I recommend all black founders to watch it. Who's on your board? Who are your investors? It matters so much. So essentially, they their main investor, and he's very transparent in saying this, basically was like, we need an old, gray-haired white CEO to raise us capital because essentially white folks only want to invest in other white folks. Basically, that's the only way we're going to be able to raise the amount of capital that we need because you two don't come across as the trusted face, which is insane, but it's such a common thing. And essentially, because of that one decision, they were outnumbered. The board seats changed, where I think one of the investors had two board seats, and then everyone else had one, including the two black founders, which led them to get outvoted. So this whole stuff about who's on your board is so important. And what's even sadder is the fact that they were actually completely correct about where the business needed to go. So these new owners that came in were like, we want to make it $9.99 a month for unlimited films. Now, and you're not hearing this now. Obviously, you can tell that makes no financial or business sense whatsoever. And they fought against that. They lost that battle. And in the end, the company went broke. It does have a happy ending though. So what kind of happened in the end with kind of MoviePass?
Well, in the end, I mean, Stacy was able to buy the company back. I think he
Yeah.
bought it out of bankruptcy, right? Like he was able to
Yeah.
bring it back, and it's currently on its second life. It's doing better. It's doing well. I think now that a lot of Black people know that it's Black owned, a lot of people want to support it. My dad saw the documentary and was like, "We need to get movie passes." And so, but this is a really, I think watching this, it hurts so much because this happens so often to Black founders. There's so many Black founders who are ousted by their boards, who give away so much, or maybe they don't even realize that, all the equity they're giving out, or that they're, or the structure of their boards. Maybe they don't realize
Hmm.
until it's too late that they've given all their power away. And this happens so often where Black founders are just ousted by boards. And I mean, I don't know. It's just a really sad story. It's, I don't know. It feels like sometimes Black founders are just set up to fail in this sense because you have to get the money from somewhere. And if sometimes the only thing that you're being offered are predatory terms, I mean, what do you do? Do you walk away from the millions and try to keep bootstrapping it, or do you take the terms? It's just a really, really
Yeah.
sad story.
Yeah, 100%. I almost feel bad sometimes when I advise founders, especially Black founders, when they come to me and I know their idea is capital intensive, that they're going to need to raise like tens of millions, 20 million, 50 million. And I'm just like, are you ready for this? Because you're going to be fighting battles left, right, and center just to keep hold of this company because they're not going to trust you straight up. But the sad thing is, even though it does have a happy ending in a sense, they bought the company back and they're going to try it again. A lot of cinema chains now have their own monthly membership. So the terms of like the timing of the market, it was perfect then. So I don't know whether they are able to kind of claw it back because it is a different market. And cinema as an entity, movie going as a phenomenon, I don't know. Are you bullish on cinema? Like what was the last film that you saw in the cinema?
In theaters?
In
In
theaters.
theaters?
Come on, Gen Z. Tell me, like, what's Gen Z saying when it comes to going to the cinema?
Well, okay, so I'm a part of a movie club, so I'm a little biased.
Oh, that's good.
I'm in a film club, so I see movies often. I saw Challengers. I think that was the
Right.
last thing I
The
saw.
Zendaya movie, the tennis Zendaya movie.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the last one I saw. What was the last one you saw?
It's been a Planet of the Apes. But I'm going to
Planet of the
definitely
Apes.
watch. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch the new Bad Boys 4.
I wanna see the new Bad Boys. I haven't even seen the first 3, but I wanna see this one.
You gotta go back and watch the first 3 because I've heard there's a lot of like Easter eggs and like callbacks to the original 3. I can't believe you ain't seen Bad Boys 1. You don't know
I
who Mike Lowry is.
know.
If I say Mike Lowry, is that name just like I don't know who that is?
Ugh.
Oh my days, that's Will Smith's character. Okay, generational divide. But I'm so happy actually that Will Smith is kind of on the comeback. Like whatever you thought about the slap, like whether you thought he was right or wrong, or whether you thought whatever, like he's been embraced, I think, by the Black community. Like he was never cancelled. Everyone loves Will
He
Smith
was
here. You know what I'm saying? And this movie's
he
made
was
100
never
million.
canceled.
He was never cancelled, but I don't think. I think within certain communities he probably was. I don't think
Well, I
he's
was gonna say
established
there's a
spaces.
racial divide. I was because my group
100%.
chat, one of my group chats was off this morning because they were like, the headlines have been so offensive. Like, I think the
Yeah,
New York Times had one where it was like, moviegoers give Will Smith a lifeline, and my friend was like, Will Smith was never canceled in the Black community. Like
100%.
most, in fact, most of the discourse I saw was on Will's side with that slap. Hey, we can
Yeah,
talk
yeah, it's
about that
true.
later.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I
I'm
hear
like,
it.
he was never canceled for Black people. I don't think.
Yeah, I think the attitude was like people get slapped every day, B. Do you know what I mean? Like, but on the show we had me and Abadesi were debating. I was like, I didn't agree with what he did, but obviously I'm not gonna cancel Will Smith. That's an icon. That's a legend. It
Over
takes
a
a lot more than
slap.
that. Yeah, over a slap. Come on. So I'm happy to hear that this it's made a bunch of money. It's made back its budget already. So that's a good news for cinema. Good news for the Fresh Prince. I'm a big cinema file though. Even though the only movie I saw recently is Planet of the Apes, and I will miss cinema when it goes. But I do think like it just don't make sense no more. Really and truly, like when you can watch so much content at your home, when you can watch so much streaming this, streaming that, when it costs $100 probably to go on a cinema date, when you're including the food, the popcorn, everything, it make
Well,
sense. Why would anybody who
well,
hasn't
hey.
grown up with that custom go?
Well, yeah, if you haven't grown up with it, but
That's what I'm
listen,
saying.
there have been communal moments. Listen, I remember the first when I quit my job 2 years ago. I remember
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things I did. I bought IMAX tickets to Downton Abbey too, And, like, I went to the theater, and it was just a bunch of old people and me, and I had the big popcorn, I had the soda and everything, and I was like, "This is what life is." I was like, peak joy, it's that community that you feel, I don't know, it's interesting to hear, like, everyone have the same reaction. I saw Saltburn in theaters, and
Okay.
there were some scenes where everyone just gasped at the same time, and
Right.
you don't get that at, like, at home alone, watching it by yourself.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. I will miss it if cinema going does go away. But at the moment, what is kind of fun is that oftentimes I do go, and this is the complete opposite of what you said. I do enjoy having a cinema by myself. When I go there and there's nobody there, because then I can cosplay like I'm a billionaire and this is my house. When like Mark Zuckerberg got some giant cinema and I can cosplay as a billionaire and be like, this is all for me. But yeah, so on a more somber note, we do got to talk about the Fearless Fund situation. So if people at home don't
Ugh.
know, Fearless Fund was is sorry, let me not speak that into existence, is a VC firm that invests in Black women. It's run by CEO is Ariana Simone, and she's the CEO. Amazing Black woman running the VC firm. They created a grant program to back Black founders or Black women founders. They then got a lawsuit from Edward Blum. Edward Blum is this old cranky white guy who basically goes around suing any single diversity initiative since 20, 30 years ago, basically. And he was actually a part of getting affirmative action ruled to be illegal in the States. So he sued them. I think Fearless Fund won an appeal. Now they've lost the reappeal. Very confusing. And it's just depressing. Like in your reporting at TechCrunch and stuff like that, like what have you kind of uncovered and like found?
This is one of the hardest stories for me to report on, because, like, as a journalist, you're supposed to always have distance, or, like, you're supposed to look at it,
Impartial.
you're supposed to be, like, objective to things. But this one, I don't know, as a Black American, this story does really cut deep. And, like, even when I was writing the updates, I was like, "I just gotta get this out because if I cannot." I mean, there's just something so, I don't know, insidious about the fact that for so long, slavery was legal, Jim Crow was legal. The Black community in America has spent most of their time, like, it was just legal to discriminate and be segregated from us. We've only been out of it for, like, since the 1960s, not that long.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that so many of this stuff was legal against us, and now when we're trying to, to get up by our bootstraps, like they say, they're like, "Oh, well, you can't use the same boots we used."
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't do the same things we did. You have to find a new way to get rights. You have to do all of these things. It's just so unfair when you think about it. I don't even know. And I think that that's where the DEI conversation is really right now in terms of what are
100%.
we supposed to do? Like you can't do the things that were done to us. You have to make up new ways, but then you kind of have to learn as you go what those new things can be. Otherwise, you'll get sued like this. It's I don't know. And Edward Bloom has been at this since the 1990s. Like it's been his life's purpose,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, it looks like, to do this. And I just don't understand that mindset. I mean, the Fearless Fund, yeah, they're barred right now from giving out grants to Black women. I read over the judge's opinion this morning, actually,
Mm.
and it's also just one of those things where it's a political divide, in terms of, Trump appointed judges versus, Democratic appointed judges. And the fact that this whole thing is a political issue is just really, really demoralizing, honestly. But
100%.
yeah, I mean, and Fearless Fun was talking about how, or Arian did an interview, I think, a few months ago, where she was speaking about how basically all of their partners have dropped them aside from two of them. And if you look at
Wow.
their website, they had a whole page full of partners.
Wow.
And so the fact that only two of them have stayed, that's really, really sad. um, I don't know. I mean, and just the idea that someone can sue Fearless Fun, saying that they're violating a civil rights act that was put into place to help make the market freer for formerly enslaved Americans. You're essentially using this amendment that was for the Black community, and you're weaponizing it against the Black community. There's something that's just not
Yeah, it's
right there. But
horrible.
but that's the way the country is set up. You can't really do anything about that's like a structural thing. Like,
Mm,
it's not fair, but that's how everything was set up. When I was reading the judge's opinion, they were arguing over one of the main arguments within it was like, does Edward have grounds to sue? Because it dawned on me, and I guess it Fearless Fund, maybe I think they've been pointing this out. We have no idea who these people are that Edward is suing on behalf of.
right.
They're kind of anonymous people, and the dissenting judge pointed out they were like, he was like, not only is there no evidence that these people who Edward is suing on behalf of even tried to apply to the grant, we don't know we don't know what the injury is, which is one of the biggest things that they would have to prove is that this grant is harming them in some way. And so I don't know this situation. I know I keep going on and on, but it's just the
No,
saddest
no,
thing is
no.
that he's probably going to win. These anti-DEI suits have been winning. Um, Fearless Fund was not the only one sued. Small Business Administration has been sued before. The Minority
Wow.
Business Development Fund has been sued over stuff like this. Hello Alice was also
Yeah.
sued for offering a grant for Black women. This is a whole thing. I mean, as we know, Edward, um, I believe he was also suing law firms for programs for
Yeah.
minorities as well, and he won. Affirmative action, obviously. So it's clear that he will probably win. Now, what that means we have no well, I think we know perhaps what that means in terms of um, a lot of things are probably going to have to change in terms of the programs, the scholarships that targeted towards minorities. We don't know necessarily how that might impact funds. Like if a fund that was focused on Black and Latinos here, how that would be impacted. But I mean, everything would be up for grabs, right? So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, and another thing, not to once again keep going,
No,
but
please.
people kept talking about how, well, they just need to adjust the language in the contract to make it less obvious. Um, and because that's what, if you look at, I guess you can argue that maybe other firms do that in terms of, it's not like they explicitly say they don't give to Black people, they just don't do it, right? So there was
Hmm.
like early conversation of, well, we could do that, we could just not give we could just only give these things to disenfranchised communities. That would take a lot of organizing, I think. You would have to be very, very careful.
Right.
Especially the hardest part is what, like I said in the beginning, building in public. Everyone is so open with their motives and like, well, we'll just do this, we'll just do this.
Right.
But then you realize people like Edward Bloom are watching us very, very closely.
Right.
I mean, because how did he even find Fearless Fund to sue? Like, that's a very niche. He must have been like deep in the weeds of like, he sued like the day after or something, the applications for the grant open. That's someone who's paying attention. And so we would be a lot of building and organizing in public. And this is a really, really tricky thing to do, I think.
Yeah, so I'm a scout for a VC program that is targeted at Black founders, so I can write checks to Black founders. And when they approached me for the program, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know how long this is gonna last. I don't know how they're getting away with this. Like, because is this next? I don't know. So I'm trying to write these checks as quickly as I can, basically, before shit just goes left, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're shutting down or whatever. Um, and he's got an organization set up in terms of the fact you're saying, like, how does he know? He's got an organization set up, I'm sure they're watching. They're very careful with the people they go after. They always find somebody who they can jump in with. So with affirmative action, I believe it was apparently Asian American students or a
Ooh,
bunch of those who basically said that, okay, I couldn't get into Harvard XYZ. So he's very clever at working with supposedly affected groups, even if it's not necessarily coherent or makes sense. I think in this situation, it was meant to be these white women founders,
yeah.
apparently mythical. We don't know. We've never met them. They've never spoken. Who said, "Oh, I'm suing because I can't apply to this grant." I don't know.
And
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I want to add to that one point because there is something like to have a white guy like take other minority groups and then weaponize them against a minority group
Yeah,
is
I know.
just there's something about that because I feel like in the civil like studying the civil rights movement like in the 1960s and the 50s, I feel like there, or at least growing up, I remember that we learned that we were all better together. Like disenfranchised communities come together and we fight for this one thing, and
Right.
that is how we all win. But for some reason, and I'm sure this is a global thing, but like specifically for this in America, there must be something within the American ideology that just puts everybody against each other. Like, we're
Mm,
always competing with each other. And if you look and see, like, I don't know, the fact that women, like, because women were like the main benefactors of DEI, a lot of the affirmative action stuff. And
100%.
so
Yeah.
even the fact that like a woman would jump in on an anti-affirmative action suit is like, it's like, this is benefiting you more than me. But then you always look at there was this old quote that my grandparents used to tell me, where it was like, even like the poorest of white person in America will still vote against their own interests, because that is how deep
100%.
that's how deep the hatred for black people is in this country. And it's like, when you look at, why are other minorities going against minorities when we're all disenfranchised in this country? um I don't know. I think I don't know what it is. It must be a mixture of anti-blackness. It must be a mixture of just like the individualism. There's no collective ideology. And then if you look and see, it's like the white men are just the ones sitting back and watching us all fight each other. We look ridiculous, but uh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the what's the percentage of VC funding? It's gone down, hasn't it? I think it trended up slightly for Black founders during 2021, 2022, and I think it's gone back down again, maybe even to below previous levels. I'd have to double check that. So the fact is, you've got a plate of food here that's been yammed down by 80 to 90%. There's a few crumbs that are being allocated to Black founders, tiny crumbs, and somebody has the temerity and the time and the energy to be like, hold on, wait, pause. What's going on there? I don't like that. And it's like, is this how you want to be remembered as a damn human being? It's amazing. Because, you know, some people, everyone's the hero of their own story, but I can't imagine what story he's telling himself, this Edward Bloom guy. And it's funny because Abadesi told me that, you know, when she was working at Alpha, which is a YC-backed women kind of social network for women engineers, part of their application process, they were warned, there's this guy, he sues organizations, anything targeted at minorities, whether that's women, whether that's any, you know, designation, watch out. And they actually had to put that down on their like threat list as on a YC application. So he is changing the ecosystem, even via lawsuits that don't work. So obviously I talked to a lot of companies that like want to work with Pocket, which does a lot of diversity recruitment. And a lot of them are spooked. They're like, well, how do we, you know, what's the language? What's this? What's that? And I'm having to kind of find out ways to be inventive and kind of, you know, massage these fears away. Yeah, but what were you going to say?
But you know, he's really smart in the fact that a lot of people were just, I don't know. He's really, really smart to know that this country is structurally the way it's structurally set up. And
Yeah,
whereas a lot of people were just, you know, yeah, we'll just create this initiative, we'll just do this, do this. He understands that structurally I can just sue this and you know, solidify the structures that we have into place. It doesn't
yeah,
matter all these things in between. He was like, I'm going straight to the source, and that's to the courts. And he was very smart to do that, because he got straight to the point, which was
yeah,
that, you know, our country wasn't founded to I guess do this. And he was like, watch this. And so, I mean, he got us there, but I
yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, so if you're a Black entrepreneur listening to this, you know, try not to be too despondent. There are still initiatives. I'm part of one, the Zeal Capital. There's 10 other scouts. So if you Google Zeal Capital Scout Program, you can find 10 other scouts who are writing checks, especially at that early pre-seed stage. And it's mad because I was talking to a lady that came to a meetup that I did, and she had sold a company, the Black founder sold a company to an entity and was now trying to raise like a micro fund. And it's amazing, like how much of that kind of setup was just basically her microfund was to replace the friends and family round, which a lot of Black founders just don't have. So that is obviously a massive disadvantage, but there are entities that are able to help you write those 10K, 25K checks and whatnot. Um,
Yeah,
you,
there's a lot of efforts going
there's
on.
still, yeah, they're still gonna.
The 15% pledge just announced the grants. They were like, "Oh, Fearless Fund is being
Okay,
sued. We're going to create a grant as
okay, dope.
well." So it seems like people are, you know,
I'll tell my
fighting.
team to put what's out there on the show notes, the positive stuff, because I guess yeah, we can wallow in the depressing stuff. And there's somebody out there right now building an app that's going to be worth $1 billion. So we hope that's you. Keep going, please, and remember us. Give us some equity as well if you can. I'm joking. I think that's enough for today's episode. We kind of covered a lot of ground. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Oh gosh, I feel like I don't know. I just went on I'm trying to think. A happy note. What's a happy thing happening?
Yeah, Will Smith come back. I think that's enough. The other thing is, what made me laugh this week is this whole situation with Roaring Kitty, the guy who invested like 50K into GameStop. They made a movie about him as well. And now he's basically a few days away from maybe becoming a billionaire because he's now put a new position back into GameStop, went public with it, that he's invested 200 million. So this is not necessarily a happy note, but it is just another whimsical note where like everything you believe about meritocracy and working hard and fighting to the top, and you'll do it if with your nice salary and your 6-figure salary. There's a guy out here who's about to become a billionaire off memes and things, so it does kind of until this whole meritocracy lie to like puts it to bed. But yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So where can everyone find you?
Oh, follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to build that following up now.
What's the
um,
app?
the Instagram, Dominic-Madori, at Dominic-Madori. It's literally just that. And follow my Substack,
Which
um,
is called?
the Black Cat.
Love it. Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Catch you next week. Peace. Bye. Stop.